What's up, Automation Nation? Justin Morgan, founder of AutomationMastery.net, here to help you automate your business, master your destiny, and maximize your impact. Hope everybody's been doing semi-well. Obviously, as you can see the title, this is my 5-minute soapbox. Now, I don't know if I'll actually be 5 minutes, but you get the point. I don't want to be here and talk you to death. But obviously there's a lot going on and everybody has something they need to say and want to say. And I'm not here to beat everybody's head, to death with my opinions and my views. And I think there's been plenty of arguments, been plenty of protests, plenty of riots. And I have my own ways that I want to contribute to make things better. And I don't feel like I need to go into depth here into all those things. But I do want to share a few things I felt like I should get off my chest here, just to be able to communicate with you all as a responsible member of this community and as someone who cares. And part of this, and the reason I feel like I need to say something is just watching everything going on. And it's frustrating from every direction. And what we're seeing right now is just a time when everyone should be coming together. A time when there should be more of us holding hands, locking arms and get together to make things better in general. Because obviously there's some benefit to everyone here if all of these things are done properly. Instead of seeing that, we're seeing much more divisiveness among everyone. Wife says she loves the new scenery. Hats off to my wife for creating the new scenery here. She actually did a number and put together a new office space. So folks listen to the podcast, you can't see it, so make sure you go over to Facebook or just go to AutomationMastery.net if you need to find our info. So you can follow us on the other social media platforms. You can actually see me and my face in these episodes. But if you didn't, the background, everything, it'll change actually a number of times. So I'm in a space I can be a little dynamic if I want to be. So again, hats off to my wife for being amazing and doing that. Okay, so, so my soapbox. Anyway, so again, I just feel like there are a few things I really want to share because if I had to share a few things, right, I want to just communicate these things. Again, not to give my 50-part letter of what I would do or what should happen or what people I'm angry at and who I want to point fingers at. Again, I think there's enough of that, and I also think that's part of the problem. Again, in a time when we should be all coming together, a time where we should be strengthening our bond as human beings in general, strengthening our bond as Americans, strengthening our bond as black people, right? Like, again, Black Lives Matter. It's time for us to strengthen our bonds there. There's just still so much divisiveness. And so I just want to leave y'all with a few things. And if I had to lead with these things, I think this would either be the core things I would try to focus on going forward. One, trying to get back to a point where we all look at each other as human beings. Too much now, we refer to Republicans as deplorable people that do this and that. Too often I see Democrats are now crazy Democrats who've done this and crazy leftists. We have racist folks on the right and crazy communist liberals on the left, right? People are no longer human beings. We are just a series of labels. And those labels go to one extreme or another. At the end of the day, though, we've started to forget. Like when I start seeing comments, again, from either side, again, this is not me copping out of this is certainly not me getting to one of those realms of where I am pulling Candace Owens. This is not that. Y'all folks know what I'm talking about. This is not that. This is me really just saying I think these things hurt overall, where we have gone to a point where we don't see people as human beings anymore. I think that goes for how the cops view folks who look suspicious, right? They may be of darker shade, but they view folks as suspicious. They don't really see them as people, right? Politicians, we don't see politicians as people, and politicians don't see us as people. The media, they see numbers and they see cash and they see money, they see attention, but they don't really see people. Again, we need to get back to the point where we just look at each other as human beings and as people. And I think when we do that, our ability to have conversation will change. And that brings us to my second point, is getting back to a place where we can have conversation without opposition. And when I say that, I don't mean that we can't disagree, but we shouldn't every time we get in a conversation, it shouldn't be a futile voice battle to the death of who's right and who's wrong. There was a post that a person of mine, somebody I knew, I actually went to college with, and knew him in school, and good guy, no problems. To be frank, again, I'm a black guy, he was a white guy, right? I won't say names, and that's fine. And he posted something that I was taken aback by, because again, he was in my friends network and certainly was not typical of the views out of the folks that I typically would have connected with. And my gut reaction was to get him, right? Like, it was to go and just be the typical, just go in the comments and just fire him up, right? But I had to take that step back and just say, well, if I do that, right? So if I go into the comments right now and I just leave a fiery, angry post, will he actually listen? I had to ask myself. Now, there's a spot and a place for passionate posts of anger and rage. And I'm not saying it's that. I'm not saying that the folks who have posted that don't have valid points. That's not what I'm saying. But just get with me. Because my goal was to get him to listen. Right? So I had to take a step back and kind of attack it a different way and put my words out there differently. And just from a space of understanding that he's a human being and he has an opinion. And I can't just automatically jump down his throat for voicing his opinion. And so if I want him to understand that his opinion may be a little bit left field, right? I need him to actually listen to me. But the only way he's going to listen to me if he's not being defensive. And so I was able to actually post something in respectful disagreement. And I think if we can get to a point, ultimately, I put up the post, and he responded back, and he's just like, he actually really appreciated it, and he actually agreed with me. He said, I made all valid points. Like, he got what I was saying. And I truly think in that moment, I got what I was trying to get through to him, because I decided to have respectful conversation. And I know that seems simple, like it's pretty standard for us as human beings to have respectful conversation, but unfortunately, up to the highest, I'm going to say it, from the highest seat of the land down to the anybody, I won't say what the lowest tier is in society, but on all levels, from the highest of politicians, right, down to us normal folk, we've lost this concept of what it means to just have respectful conversation, to just talk about what we disagree on. And yes, again, I'm not saying it is not a time to be passionate, use choice words if you need to, get a little angry if you need to. But there are also times where if we really want these people to understand why I as a black man feel the way that I do about how the system is run today. Like, if I want to communicate that I think police brutality is a problem in general, especially for the black folks. If I want people to understand really what racism has done, right, to our people. Like, if I want them to understand what it really means, I need to be able to have a conversation. And unfortunately, you can't really have a conversation when you're jumping down each other's throat. Like, it just doesn't work. You're not in a space to be able to share and openly take in info. Okay? That'd be the second thing. And then lastly, like, the last thing I have to share, I know this is way over a 5-minute soapbox, but that's all right. Last thing I would like to share is just don't forget that you wear a lens. Like, don't forget that you wear a lens. And again, I'm not trying to cast out anybody. It's not one side or the other. I see there are problems on every side of this argument, everything that's going on today. And there's also validity from both sides of the argument. And when we aren't having conversations and getting the right people in the right conversations, in the right state of mind, in the right space, and the ability to empathize, then we don't ever really get to the solutions we want. Now we're starting to see this, and it's amazing because people are out there peacefully protesting and doing what they do, that we are seeing companies and people that we wouldn't have imagined take stances and step up and make change. And so those things are great. And I think that's why peaceful protests, I'm a huge fan of and proponent of. I'm a huge fan of voting with your dollars. I'm a huge fan of voting with your attention. I think those things are very powerful. They can be chaotic yet peaceful at the same time. That's why I love it. I think peaceful chaos is key to a long-standing, successful revolution, change, etc. Okay, that's just my view, right? I'm not saying it has to be the way it is. That's my view. So what I'm saying is remember that everyone has a lens. And more importantly, that everybody is still entitled to their lens, right? Again, I have a certain lens that I'm trying to communicate to other people about how my life is going, okay? About the situations I've been in. And thankfully, I'm in a space where I haven't had to deal with a ton of, like, just outright, inward racism. But there's still times where I feel the shadow of cultural and racial, like, prejudice, right? I don't know if that's bias, right? Because I think there's a difference between bias and racism. Again, not going down that rabbit hole right now, but I think there's a little bit of a difference, okay? So I haven't like outright racism, but I feel like I've seen and I felt and I think about and I worry about bias at times. But it's hard for people to understand that, right? Like it's hard for other people to understand it because they haven't lived it. They haven't experienced it. And so when I say respect and honor their lens, it's not that. So when you get to that person, it's like, oh, racism is not a thing. It's not that you're not still right for saying racism is not a thing. Is that you can't ultimately tell them they're wrong because they haven't experienced it. And I'm not saying it's not so they shouldn't actually admit it or consider it or agree with you at some point. What I'm saying is if you don't go into that conversation not thinking that not that they want to be mean or ignorant or evil, but they just simply are ignorant to the fact that they haven't experienced it because it's not their lens, then it makes it hard to have a conversation with them that actually gets them to finally understand. So when we take a step back to think about and consider the other person's lens, right? It creates a space where we can have respectful conversation and start treating each other like human beings. See, all these things link up together. I know. I talk about business, and I talk about automation, and I talk about technology. But automation is all about integrating things. It's about getting systems to work together. And ultimately, when one part of a system is broken, it disrupts the rest of it. And to say that, I think it just hammer homes this fact, give really just what the Black Lives Matter movement is about, is that one, if our system's broken for us as African Americans, then that means it's a problem for everyone. Because if we can fight and improve police brutality for us, ultimately that means that everyone will finally benefit. Because again, there are other folks who suffer, whether you're other shades of brown or you're white. Police brutality is a thing, and it's a problem in general. But if you solve it for us, it's a good chance you can solve it for everybody. And on the other side of it, right? Again, when one thing is wrong, so for us, one thing is wrong, it affects everyone. It affects every part of the system. And so at the end of the day, while we argue and we think we're on opposite sides of the same spectrum, we're actually on the same side. Like we actually, again, even on the opposite side, again, the folks who hate cops, again, police and law enforcement have a role. And so, I know that some folks want to burn the system down, but we need them. So even that, we have to just remember again, taking their lens, like just remember they're human beings. They have families, they have friends, they have hobbies, they have kids. They have tough decisions they make on a day-to-day basis. But ultimately, their goal is we want them to get to is be able to protect us. That's what we want them to get to. So we have to be able to work together. We got to be able to come together and make one system that integrates, that works, that runs. That's my soapbox. More than 5 minutes, but definitely felt like it was worth it. I appreciate y'all and all that you do. I'll see y'all in the next one. This is my commitment to get back into finally putting out these live streams and this content. So here I am. I'm back. See y'all in the next one. Make sure you check out the podcast, automationmastery.net. I think the podcast is ampodcast.net. Anyway, I appreciate y'all, all that you do. I'm Justin Morgan, founder of automationmastery.net, here to help you, coaches, speakers, and trainers create automated systems to save time, energy, and effort in your business, all while multiplying your revenue. I'll see you soon. And as usual, treat each day as a building block to a better future. Peace.